All right, buckle up. You are going to learn a bunch of stuff in this video about how to deploy a real production grade distributed application. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's just jump right into it and show you all of the clicks that you'll need to follow along with to get an entire production grade distributed application up and running. So let's go for it. Let's go for it. All right, so what are we going to do? Effectively, we are going to make a Ubuntu machine, going to make a Linux machine. We can put that anywhere on the internet if we want to do a cloud machine or on a native Linux machine, or today, because a lot of you like to use Windows, I will be showing the Windows subsystem for Linux flow, which is literally identical to all of the other flows except it is on Windows. So let me just fully bake the cake for you here real quick. Run this one single command. Once we get our system set up, it is literally one command and we will run an entire production grade distributed application. What is that command? Let's go into this folder that we put into this Linux machine here. I will cd into this RAIRDApp, and then I will use my up key and I will show all of my nice little commands that I've already put into the system. And guess what? I'm going to do docker compose, find this docker compose file that has all of the configurations that I need for our system, and then do this upd. And this one command right here is going to run an entire application. So let's hit that. I will put in my password, boop. And look at all the stuff that it's doing. It's installing all of these different containers, running them, getting them up on my system, and then allowing me to see this entire application on localhost. So you can see here we have our entire distributed backend installed, so no centralized API keys or any of that stuff required. Your own full self-sovereign backend, your own front end, your own syncing engine, your own streaming engine, all with that one command. So what does this thing look like? In our case, it's a production grade NFT marketplace distributed application, but by no means does that mean you need to build a NFT marketplace. You could build literally anything that you could imagine in Web3, and you'll have all of this amazing tooling all out of the box here. If I wanted to, say, connect my wallet with MetaMask, boom. I'm doing all of that, so you don't need to code any of that, spend years banging your head into a keyboard, just basically run Docker and get this thing up and running. All right, so let's do it. Let's start from like total scratch and then install everything step by step. So I'm going to go head over here to our awesome documentation. And we'll see here that we have this getting started guide where literally every possible command that you could need is all sequentially in order. So you don't need any programming experience, any really experience with computers at all. It does help if you want to extend it or modify it to have some computer science background. But literally anybody in the world can follow along and run their own entire self-sovereign distributed application. So let's pretend that this computer is totally empty, it has nothing on it, and we're going to start totally from scratch. So if you're on a Windows machine, you are going to go into PowerShell here, and then you're going to install install Linux inside of your Windows system. And that is with this little command here. In fact, I know the command, but I'll just go look at our docs here and say, oh, okay, I need to do Windows subsystem and then find the stuff that I'm able to install. So let's go look in PowerShell. Boop, Windows, WSL, and then what am I doing? I'm doing -L, -O. That's going to list all of the different types of Linux that you can install on your system. We want Ubuntu. However, I've already installed this 24.04, which we recommend. So we're just going to take a little bit of a gamble today and install 22.04. Really not that much different. So I imagine that our system will work just fine with 22.04 as well. So here's the command to do it. WSL install. Again, I already have this 24.04 machine up here at the bottom. So I'm just going to install this other one right here. So we will just copy paste. That's a really great piece of advice. Just copy paste. Don't want to mess up the command, because if you get a single dash wrong or a single space wrong, then the command doesn't work. So all I'm going to do is come in here and just do this. Boop. And we will hang out for just a second and be patient. I don't know, however fast your computer is. My computer's pretty fast, so and my internet's good as well, which is important because we install, I don't know, low gigabytes amount of stuff to get our system to work. So here we go. All right, we'll see. It says it may take a few minutes. So we'll just hang out and pause and come back when this thing is done. Woohoo! Whew, and we're back. All right, so we need to set up a username and a password. I would recommend just doing something simple so that you can remember it, because every time you use Linux to do a sudo command, so to do an administrator command, you need to type in the password. Anyway, something that you can remember. So we're going to do RAIRdemo2 here. Going to be super creative as our username. And then it's going to ask for a password. Let me move this around just a little bit so I can see the bottom of the screen. There we go. And we will say RAIRdemo2 and RAIRdemo2. Hey, okay, cool. So there we go. Now I've got Ubuntu 22.04 installed on my system as well. All right, cool. Now I'm in RAIRdemo 22.04. Now you could run this entire Clickflow here from the native PowerShell command, but what happens if you like log out and want to log back in and turn off your computer or something? So we're just going to shut this thing down, and then we're going to go look in Windows here, and then we'll see, aha! Not only do I have 24.04, but I also have this one, 22.04. Well, there we go. So that is 22.04, and then just so that we have it, I'm going to pin this thing to the start, pin to taskbar. Cool, now we've got 22.04. All right, sweet. So this is my command line. So this is where I'm going to run all of these copy-paste commands from our documentation over here. So let's go to our getting started guide, and let's just crank through all of these together. So big picture, what are we trying to do? We're trying to install Docker, and we're trying to install Docker Compose. What is Docker? You could look that up like a million other places, but it's basically the thing that runs the whole internet. You make these containers, you containerize all of your code, and then you run Docker to run these containers easily. So you don't need to compile stuff yourself. You just basically take our pre-built images of our application and then just run it with like that one command that I showed at the beginning, the Docker up command. But again, you have a totally blank, empty Ubuntu machine right now that doesn't have Docker in it, doesn't have Docker Compose in it. So that's what all of these first initial steps are. So we've actually put every step nicely into this little like copy code thing with Gitbook. So just copy it. Don't try to cowboy it and type the stuff in. Just basically copy it. So this is the very first command we're going to run here. So I'm going to Control V and I'm going to sudo app update. And guess what? It's going to ask for the password, which is why I made sure that it was just RAIRdemo2. Something really easy. Okay, boom. So that's the very first thing you're going to do. It's going to install a whole bunch of stuff. Let me organize my windows a little bit easier so I can basically just do this and then maybe move this thing around just a tad. All right, sweet. So we now have all of these packages. All right. What is the next thing I'm going to do? Let's add all of these dependencies. So we will go over here and we'll paste this in. Again, just this command straight out of the box. Boom! Do you want to continue? Yes. Ha! All right, cool. Now we have Docker, now we have dependencies. Let's put in a couple keys. So copy. Come over here, paste. Bang. All right, it just does that. All right, next one here. Come over here, copy, paste. Bang. Okay, cool. Now you've got some keys. All right, now that's in there. Let's update this thing one more time. There's Docker, or at least the dependencies for Docker. So this is actually Docker itself here. Sudo apt, this thing. We'll actually get Docker itself. Yes. All right, ta-da. We are getting Docker on this empty Ubuntu machine. And we'll see if 22 works as well as 24. I would assume it does. Cool. All right, this next command here is fun. This is what's going to install Docker Compose. So Docker is this big giant containerization system. Compose is what allows you to run this one file that we've already pre-configured for you, and then boom, you have the whole system up and running. So we've played around with this command some. We think latest is the best way to do it. You could type in, instead of latest, you could type in like version 2.29.0 or whatever. I'm just going to roll with the latest here. Oops, I still have this old command. Sorry. Get rid of that. And let's go here, copy, and then let's put Docker Compose in the system. Boom. All right, so there's Docker Compose. Now this last command here is what actually makes Docker Compose executable. We'll just paste that in here. Boom. Oh, excuse me, I installed that into the wrong place. Yeah, watch me do that again. We need to put that thing into Wait, that's right. I totally forgot to put sudo in here. Okay, so it's actually sudo gmod. There we go. Now that did it. So yeah, sudo is that administrator command that helps you do stuff. Actually, I should change that documentation to be sudo gmod, but whatever. Okay, so now we have, that's it. Now we have Docker and Docker Compose installed. So let's pull down this entire repository here, this RAIRDApp repository. And again, you don't really need to know how Git works. You just need to install Git. So Git is the thing that will pull all of the code down for you and put it onto your system with this git clone command. But first, this is a totally empty machine. It doesn't have git on it. So let's do sudo apt get install and say, yeah, we want to, whatever, take up some space. Boop. All right, cool. So that will install git. Oh, just FYI, you probably want, I don't know, 10, 20 gigabytes of free space. If you are doing this on a cloud VM instead of this local machine, I don't know, 20 gigabytes of SSD would be ideal, just to make sure that you can pull down, all the things that you need. Docker is like a couple gigabytes, maybe. Git is some space, and then our application itself is pretty small and not crazy, just a couple low gigs of stuff, and then you'll be fully up and running. So let's just give Git a second. I will, no, okay, I don't need to pause it. All right, cool. So that was it. That installed all of Git onto our system. So now with this one command here, if you want to clone our entire repository, this entire repository, because we're 100% open source, you just basically run this command, git clone, and then it's going to go find RAIRDApp. Boom. Cool, and we'll hang out while it's pulling that down. In fact, I might pause. This is maybe a, I don't know, two minute process for it to pull everything down. Hopefully you have fast internet, because it's like a gigabyte or so. But if you don't, just be patient and then it'll be on. I'll be back in just 1 sec. Oh, hey, that was faster. That's faster than I thought. All right, cool. So there we go. Our Docker Compose, the thing installed. Now we basically just need to do this one thing where we copy this environment variable file into the repository. So what are we actually doing when we do this? So let's just do a little quick background here. So Docker uses this one file, this YAML file, to build your entire thing for you, which is super awesome and makes development like 10 times faster. But it needs to know what to build. So what you do is you tell it what to build in this environment variable file here. And what we've done to make your life super, super easy is we have filled this entire thing out for you. All of the addresses that the smart contracts need to route to, all of this stuff, so that it totally works out of the box. And after that, if you want to start tinkering with it and playing with it and changing some of these things one at a time, that's the best way to learn, right? You don't want to start from scratch. You want to start from a production grade infrastructure that just works. So let's do that. Let's do this one command here to basically copy this environment sample file into the same folder so that Docker knows where it is, which is these two commands here. So let's first go cd RAIRDApp. So that's where we installed. See how that had that nice little blue path here? So now I'm in the RAIRDApp folder, right? The name of the repository is RAIRDApp. I have it in my system in RAIRDApp. So now that I'm inside of there, I can run this command here. This first one here, cd copy. Excuse me. Let me not run both of them at the same time. So, awesome. So now I copy that folder in. And then we have two places actually that we have environment variables: in the main repository itself and the mono repo itself. And then as well in the front end, we have some environment variables there that we need to bang. So there we go. So now we've copied that. And if we want to triple check that that really did work, we can go into Linux here. Again, this is a Windows flow. This is just a quick and dirty way to figure this out, but excuse me 1 second. So if I go into my home folder here, RAIRDemo2, hey, look, there's RAIRDApp. And inside of RAIRDApp, we can see that we both have the env, and then that command that I ran also copied it, this env sample, into the actual env itself. And if we wanted to check in the rare front, we can see that we did the same thing there. So sweet. So double check that. All right, awesome. So I have this big warning here, because if you don't do that, if you don't copy them and just try to run and start the thing, it will screw up your database. I've run into that before, so please don't do that. Make sure you do those two commands first. Okay, cool. So here's the main event. This is what I showed you guys at the very beginning of this video. Badass command that effectively lets you run the entire system. Although, before I do that, let me make sure that I shut the thing down on the other version here. Let me skip ahead a little bit. I'm going to run sudo docker down just in case. Cool. So I'm actually stopping it on version 24. You don't want to run the thing on two versions at the same time. So anyway, that I skipped ahead, but that docker down command is how you stop. That's how you stop the application. So we're going to stop it over here, and then we will turn it on the other one, and then just prove the whole workflow out here. Okay, so amazing. So there we go. So it's stopped over on 24.4. Let's go here and turn it on 22.04. Okay, so I think, yeah, actually everything is installed and everything's copied over. I can just close out of these and restart it again real quick, make sure I'm in the right place. 22.04. All right, so here's that one magical command. Everything is totally installed. All the environment variables are copied over. So well, let's hit it. And then, of course, it's going to want the password. Oh, excuse me. Of course, you have to cd into the proper application here. And then look, if you hit up arrow, then it does it for you, so you don't have to type the thing in again. So there we go. Ha! Look at that! So it's doing it all totally for you. Again, fully open source front end, fully open source, decentralized back end, right? So if we cease to exist or go away or whatever, like, you are totally golden. You are not beholden to some kind of centralized intermediary. If you look at a lot of, I won't name names, but it rhymes with erdweb. If you look at things like that, basically their thing doesn't work unless you have their own API secret in it, and that means if they ever go away, then you're totally screwed. Whereas our thing is a totally universal distributed aggregation layer. So effectively, it's this one environment variable sample file. You don't like one particular vendor, you take them out, and then you replace them. With another one. So here we go. So this is the first time it's installing. Oh, hey, look at that. Oh, all right, we are good. We just basically ran that one Docker command and then installed our entire system. Let's double check real quick that it did in fact work properly. So this is the whole like checking it command. So let's sudo ps-a, and we'll see there's all of our subsystems in our mono repo, the backend, distributed backend, not centralized backend, front end, syncing service, media service, all of those things are up. And if we wanted to pull logs on any one of them, then we could. So let's just triple check that we can actually go to our application and log in. So here it is. So here's a totally empty NFT marketplace, which you can totally modify, extend, do anything that you want to turn into a totally different kind of app. So I'm going to end the video right here. We're right at about 20 minutes. So we will check in the next one where we can actually configure this whole server with a nice user interface. But yeah, I think you should be able to run this entire thing yourself just by just following along in those commands and have your own fully self-sovereign distributed application up and running. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will continue this in the next video.